All right, moving on. US President Donald Trump has slowly started to realize the ramifications of alienating the fastest growing economies of the world. As leaders of the global south, nations like Brazil and South Africa rally their allies led by India against Trump's trade terrorism. The president has posted this on his Truth Social, and look closely. He says that the USA has lost India and Russia to China. What did he expect? Despite 50% tariffs and highly aggressive economic positions, his administration has taken. India, for one, gave Trump every opportunity to act like the leader of the world's largest economy with responsibility. Given his temper tantrums, however, it now seems likely that the relationship between the USA and India is certainly not going to recover from Trump's actions anytime soon. Given all of this, let us discuss the latest happenings in this respect, beginning with the dinner where Trump gathered leaders of the big tech companies at the White House, and all of them had sparkling things to say about Trump's leadership. We'll talk about this with our guest. Joining us on the show is Ambassador Pradeep Kapoor, former diplomat. Mr. Sumit Peer, senior political commentator, is also with us. Ravi Karkara, founder at Invest NYC Forum, is also joining us at this point in time. Sumit Peer, I'll begin with you. When I read Donald Trump's post saying that, we have lost India and Russia to China, it almost sounded like a complaint from a jilted lover. But let's not forget that in this relationship, it was Donald Trump who betrayed us, not the other way around.
Vineet, thank you very much for having me on your show, and a very good question to begin with. I like the jilted lover. You see, that Trump is a man who loves himself. He loves to see himself in the mirror, and he talks to himself, and he's his biggest admirer and he's his biggest fan. Now, when this mirage breaks and the reality starts creeping in, which is cruel, which is ugly, at which the things are staring on his face, I'll talk about John Bolton. John Bolton today said to Keir Starmer, Modi was his best friend, but don't get carried by his word. You can be his best friend as a country or as a person. You don't know when this man will come and hit you. European Union is talking of taking back the tariff deal, right? Europeans are warming up to India. They want to sign the FTA, and they're talking of 50 tarah ki corporation in India, right? And then President Putin, President Xi, and if you look at every world leader is rallying behind us. Now, Trump suddenly realizes that out of B4 countries, big four, he's America. China is gone, Russia is gone, India is gone. And what irks him most? Look, India and Russia were always close, but India getting closer to China is what irks him most. Because all the criticism is not coming up because of India's relation with Russia. Is India's supposed improving relation with China. That's where all the criticism. Let it be Jack Sullivan, let it be John Bolton. Now, Jack Sullivan and he's an ex-NSA, right? He's a Democrat. Now, John Bolton, ex-NSA, he is a Republican. Now, both the ex-NSAs, one Democrat, one Republican, exactly telling the same tone. Now, take this gentleman, what is his name? Richard Wolff, one of the noticed economists of USA. He said that you have created an alternate to United States called China. Second thing says, taking a panga, I will use the word panga because I like the Hindi. Say, taking the panga in India is like a mouse getting his fist and hitting the elephant. That is what Richard Wolff says. Says, Mr. Trump, you are bringing disaster to these countries. Your tariffs are already failing. European Union is contemplating when this deal is not real, why should we be bound by this? Europeans are saying, why don't we walk out of this? Now, look at the things which are folding. And Vineet, we discussed yesterday on your show, we are almost talking of USA hitting recession, which is almost very certain because all the rating agencies are talking the same. Now, with this thing and the fiasco in the Supreme Court and possibility of reversing this decision, and then the possibility of returning the money. And what did Trump wake up today and he says, okay, I want to rename the Pentagon into a war machine something. Now, I want to revamp the whole American military. Till yesterday, he was saying this SU is a tamasha. These are all bad actors. This happens every year. Nautanki hai, drama hai. I don't know what happened. What did China show him? Yesterday he said, I need to revamp the whole American military. But Vineet, what the problem is 70% of the components of the American military industry come from China. And look at our country, last 20 years, especially in last 11 years, there is not even one single connector or a nut or bolt which can come from China in our defense. Now America wakes up and says it's shaking. NATO's chief is shaking. He doesn't know what to do. He's telling people that North Korea, China and Russia are preparing for a biggest war which Europe and America cannot handle. I'm quoting General Ruth. For 15 minutes, what is her name? Ursula von der Leyen's plane went out of the GPRS. Possibly Russians backed it. Ruth was saying another Russian missiles are coming in next 10 minutes. The whole Europe is panicking. Everything is going here and there. And Putin says yesterday, look, buddies, if there is no ceasefire, then I will end the war. But I will end the war when the military will win the war. He's very clear. Bhai, main nahi manunga. When the military win the war, I will end the war. So where is Trump's diplomacy going? Where is Trump's deals going? Though he claims I've stopped 7 wars, I've started 4 wars in brewing, but America is heading to a 1930 kind of a situation which Trump has himself warned that if Supreme Court overturns my decisions, it can be the Great Depression. At Smoot-Harvey Act, 1930, same thing happened. Within 3-4 years, the GDP contracted by 64-5%. Then the Great Depression took place. Now, if we look how the things are happening, how the world is alienating itself, and what he did to India, and I mean, if you look at, Jake Sullivan says, because of doing pittance of business with these jihadis in Pakistan, you betrayed the world's largest democracy with a deal potential of 500 billion because your family might want to make some 50 million out of Pakistan. Now, when this is happening, all the allies, you have a deal or you don't have a deal with them, you are shaking. You don't know what this man is going to do next to you. You might not be public about it, but everybody is talking. How the hell do we trust this man? We don't know what will he go and put on Truth Social. What do you mean by losing to the darkest, deepest China? And if China is darkest and deepest, why didn't you put sanctions on China? And who is the person who is responsible for getting India closer to China? Who is the person who let all the work go of India and America last 30 years? All the diplomatic sweat and blood which was put in this relation and billions of dollars. So say you let it go down the drain. Whose arrogance is it? And after your trade tariffs, does it really matter? Is India going to kneel? Is India going to beg? No. $44 billion of trade tariffs do not matter to us. But we need 3 days back, there was a talk of, France. I have greater respect for French, but France was trying to get a $44 billion, raised by tax cuts, increase the tax and spend.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Sumit, I'll come back to you. Let me also, pick Ravi's brain on this as well. Ravi, Donald Trump has tweeted that, we have lost India to China. But who exactly has lost India to China? Who's to blame for that?
I think as Sumit was saying, I think it's very clear the writing is on the wall, right? I think some of us, and Ambassador Pradeep is also based in US. We know very clearly that for years and decades, people have really worked on strengthening this relationship. And nowhere, I think, probably from a diplomatic perspective, foreign policy perspective, a geopolitics perspective, we've seen a great relationship which was in the making in February has completely gone on a reverse spiral, right? And this is totally for one person who needs to be blamed. Of course, it's President Trump, but I think as Sumit was saying, it's Peter Navarro, it's the entire team which is misguiding. And of course, there are many different dimensions linked to this. And I've said this again with you, Vineet, that I think Operation Sindoor really changed the world, and that was really the most critical piece because the world woke up to in India, a DRDO, which was producing one of the most best, systems that world had seen. And second, with the day you have J.D. Vance saying that we are nothing to do with this war, no comments, and then you decide to suddenly take a side. You did not take a side of Pakistan, you actually took a side of a terrorist state. And you also, that very single moment, decided that the implications and ramifications will have very strong impact on the ongoing FTA discussions. And as you know, that later His Excellency, Jaishankar ji, in that question that I asked him, and he said, Ravi, it's no longer an FTA, it's a BTA. And that was it, and that was a clear signal. And of course, now when you realize that and I remember tweeting sometime back, is this the starting of RICE, Russia, India, China? And I made a big question mark. And many people came back and said, I think this will never happen. And it's happened, it's happening. And I think one Peace Prize, which I would really award to him, as many people have said, is bringing these two countries together. So I would say that it's a opportunity in disguise. It's a great, and especially the way SEO really concluded. I think it's given the world media, the world business community that here are these 3 big countries coming together, and of course Silicon Valley is going to be very, very afraid, and that's why this meeting at the White House of the movers and shakers, they also know that if these 3 countries will come together, they will also move and shake the Silicon Valley as we know it. And today I'm in Bangalore, and we had multiple meetings in the last 3 days I only see euphoria and excitement of people saying that we want to go on a gear five and take the Indian startup system to the next level. The deep tech opportunity, the semicon conclusion in Delhi only tells you that the business community is very, very clear, very focused that we will work together. And of course, people blame Trump, but we need to move on to make sure that India will be, as I said, with the whole 2047 initiative, that India will be one of the greatest economies we will see. But definitely, this has a very strong impact on dollar, and maybe we'll touch upon that. But this is really a wake up call for the world that there's too much dollar dependency and, of course, monopoly to a certain extent. So he's not only destroyed a relationship, he's really created an earthquake into the financial system, the trading system, and in a very good way, I would say, to really look at world coming together against not a country, but really an ideology, which I think is very clearly that he's waking up that, oh my God, what have I done? And that's exactly what you're seeing right now. And of course, I also understand, whether it's confirmed or not, I understand that Prime Minister Modi is not going to the General Assembly. Will he be the only head of state who will actually not go to the General Assembly? I think there'll be many more. And I think at some point later this month, we'll be discussing that is this a regular General Assembly, or many world leaders are giving a very clear signal that enough is enough. We cannot be bullied, we cannot be put in a corner, and you cannot jeopardize basic economies which are really wanting to come up. And I see the same thing. I was in Nairobi, I was in Dubai. Everybody is saying that enough is enough. So I think this is where we headed.
All right, fair enough. Valid points, Ravi. Ambassador Kapoor, despite the optimism that this relationship showed, it seems that Donald Trump, was very, if I can use this word, very monolithic in his approach when it comes to making America great again. But do you think that he's going to be, in fact, doing the opposite of that? He's not going to make America great again. He's going to make America perhaps struggle again for alliances that could have kept China at bay and slowed down the ascent of its economy.
Well, Vineet, thank you. It's a very valid point you're making, and a very important point which you made earlier. In his Truth Social tweet, he has mentioned that looks like we have lost India, etc., to deepest, darkest China. Now, he should have really put it as looks like I have lost India to China. Not that we. There's no we in that, statement. So that is the correct way to depict it, because he is the one who's solely responsible. And I guess the meeting with the honchos, the industrial corporate sector leaders, will not result in any great rapprochement between India and the US, because ultimately what has to happen at the policy making level, at the White House, at the Congress, and basically in the US system, because that is where the current fault lines lie. Now, the US India relationship is far too important for the world, for US, for India, for everybody concerned. And that is the way for the future. Now, that has to be sort of rectified, that has to be set right, that has to be reset. It has gone down a spiral, and it is still going to go a little bit more further down until the elections come up, the midterm elections in November 2026, when suddenly we will find that there is some, change in attitude and outlook. Because once I have the fear that I'm going to lose control of the Congress and I'm going to lose control of the Senate. And then the possibility of impeachment is looming large on my head. And there's this Damocles sword hanging on my neck. At that stage, I'm suddenly going to try to correct course. But whether it will be too little, too late, as he said for India, that same statement may apply to him at that point of time. Whether he will be able to do any course correction which will retrieve the ground situation, because currently I find the ground slipping very fast from under his feet. The economy is going to go into nosedive. That is not apparent to some of the people who are his basic followers in MAGA, and but becoming quite apparent to a lot of other people. and that will soon become more and more apparent to others as the price rise continues. So that will give a very big jolt, because once the prices rise, the voters are going to start deserting the MAGA movement and the Republicans, and they are either not going to be voting at all, or some of them are going to switch alliance to vote for anybody else other than MAGA. So that sort of shift is going to imperil this entire edifice, let me put it that way. And all this will look like history very soon. Thank you, Vinny.
Sumit, will it look like history very soon? Do you think that Donald Trump is going to climb down from his own plank and these tariffs that he's imposed on India? You know, it's not only that, there are other measures being instituted as well. You know, there is a crackdown on H-1B visas, there is a crackdown, or rather a fee, which is going to be imposed on Indian travelers with valid visas when they go to the United States. All of this is stemming out of, Lord knows what, but it is going to spoil the relationship to a point where both the countries end up disliking each other.
Unfortunately, we are heading to a situation where the personal vendetta and personal likings of a person are driving the foreign policy of the United States of America. It has never happened before. Usually, US had a kind of a consistent policy even between Democrats and the Republicans. Thoda badlega, but moreover, they will be consistent. Now, this man is running this as a sultanate. To me, it looks like a Aurangzeb sting in Delhi and issuing that farman, next farman. That is how it is happening. Now, for the MAGA guys, well, it is not make America great again, it's make America Garib again. So, great is replaced by Garib. So, that is exactly what is going to happen. So, MAGA guys, if you know Garib, otherwise Google and find it. Garib means poor, by the way. So, that is what is going to happen. So, the here is, it's not only that, look what he's talking about. Yesterday, he was talking about putting those third and fourth round of sanctions, B and C sanctions. What does he mean by that? H-1B visa he's cracking because he doesn't want our people to be there. He stopped spouses working. That was one jolt we got there. Then H-1B visa crack. Then he's stopping the student visas, but he's willing to get 600,000 Chinese students into America. And he says 15% of the American universities will close if the Chinese students do not come. I don't know. Does the Chinese money have double the value than what we pay? I have no idea. Maybe it looks to be the true. I mean, this man, Carol Levitt, when she was asked, ma'am, you have 279,000 students here. Your Marco Rubio says they are intellectual moles of Chinese Communist Party, so-called darkest, deepest China. Now we wanted to throw them out. You wanted to throw them out. Now the president is saying, I want to get 600,000. She says, no, it's for 2 years. I thought if he would have said million, well, Carolyn, you could have said it's for 3 years. So just, multiply it by numbers. He seems to have got all the logics wrong. Yesterday he was saying India is terrifying like us. They have taken trillions of dollars from us. I mean, the trade is not in trillions of dollars. How could we take trillions of dollars for us? India is charging us 200-300% tariffs. We need the average tariff, which India used to charge on American goods, is 17%. Where does $200,000 come from? He says that every jet which was down in Operation Sindoor is $150 million jet. Even F-16 is not $150 million. This man has completely lost the proposition and sense of numbers. He doesn't know what to do, and if this man thinks by doing all these things, now there's even a talk in America, you have to give a bond. I mean, they are talking for some countries to get a visa, and bond may be around $50,000-$20,000. If that is the case, and let's assume and presume India has put in that if next time you want to go there and get a visa, you have to put 20 lakh rupees deposit somewhere to get apply for an American visa. How many people are going to afford it? And how many people want to go and do it? Doesn't he say writing on the wall? Doesn't he say why Europeans are warming up to India?
You're absolutely right, Sumit. You're absolutely right. Those are valid and stellar points that you have made. But unfortunately, we've also run out of time. It's only a matter of time before things unravel and we get to know what really is going to be the equation between the Americans and India. Ravi, Ambassador Kapoor and Sumit, appreciate you joined us. We take a short break. Be right back.